years ago, when I was a white belt at the Junri Institutes up in Maryland, I had to learn what was called the Junri Institute Creed, to build ourselves physically and mentally based on the Taekwondo spirit, to never fight to achieve selfish ends, but to develop might for right. That Master Ri, my teacher in Taekwondo, would teach us. Relates a lot to the lesson that Morihei Ueshiba, this gentleman, taught us about Masa Katsu Agatsu. True victory is self-victory. To build ourselves physically and mentally means that we have to overcome those physical challenges with our mind. Master Ri said that you can never be defeated as long as you never quit. Let's talk a little bit about focus and persistence in martial arts. Kotodama drills utilize sound and sound waves in order to help you focus. This whole idea of SHO TEN, this focusing of your mind first before anything else, that's going to allow you to control your breathing. That breath control is going to allow you to keep your heart rate within a functional range, and it will allow you to respond to emergencies. Let's take a look at some of these kotodama breath exercise techniques that utilize sound to help you to focus. An alternate method is just simply to use a bell in order to create the same sound. By making these sounds, you vibrate at a certain frequency response, which helps to stimulate both the pineal gland and the pituitary glands, which are at the base of the brain, to secrete serotonin, norepinephrine, various types of human growth hormones. And it actually helps to reduce issues with anxiety, reduce issues with depression, and overall, it actually helps to improve your functional status. The idea is to focus on the sound for as long as you can hear it before striking it again. A lot of times when I'm striking the sound, I ask students to breathe in, focus on the sound, exhale slowly with a breath hold. But when we have sound, it's merely a distraction that you're listening to, but that sound itself can have power, and it can help to improve your overall health, fitness, and your mental health as well. Once upon a time in Japan, there was a young archer. His skill in these Budo tournaments, these archery tournaments, was unrivaled. The guy would shoot and often hit the bullseye the first time. On his second arrow, he would knock it, shoot again, and he would often split the arrow. So his marksmanship skills were just outstanding. He was really, really a good archer. One day at this tournament, he looks and he sees, the great master of Japan, this older gentleman who's well into his 80s at this point, who was a legendary archer. The young archer couldn't help himself. He goes over, introduces himself to the old archer, and he immediately challenges the old archer to a duel, basically a competition to see who had the best archery skills. The old archer, the master, says, of course. He says, not a problem. He says, I'll compete with you. We can shoot arrows and see who does better, but it has to be under my conditions. So the young archer immediately agrees because it's such an honor to compete against this old gentleman. The next morning, they show up. It's early in the morning. The old archer takes him on a hike. They hike high up into the mountains, And as they're walking up into the mountains, they come to this great big chasm, this cliff that drops off nearly 1,000 feet below. And they walk up to this log. The log had been dropped so that it would fall across the two cliffs so that somebody could get from one side, walk across the log to the other side. The log, though, had been there a long time, and so it was kind of wobbly. And it was maybe 75 feet or so across to where the old archer had, the night before, hung a target in a tree. When he showed the young archer, he said, "We're going to shoot at that target." The young archer said, "Oh, this will be easy. I'll hit that target all day long." The old master says, "But there's one condition. You have to do it the same way that I do it." The young archer kind of scratched his head a bit and said, "Well, okay, I'll take that challenge." So the old archer walks out, climbs up on the log, walks about halfway across the log. And of course, the log's moving a little bit. So the old archer is balancing himself, pulls out his arrow, nocks it, draws, and shoots. And when he shoots, he hits the target, boom, dead center. So when he hits this target dead center, he turns around on the log, which is still a little wobbly, walks back over, hops off. He looks at the young archer and he says, "Now it's your turn." So the young archer tentatively gets up on this log. It's moving a little bit. He doesn't like that much. He goes out about halfway. He's looking down. It's thousands of feet if he should fall. He draws his arrow. The log's moving. He's looking at the chasm that he could fall into to his death. As he draws his arrow and he shoots, he misses the target completely. The arrow flies off into the woods on the other side of the cliff. He walks back very carefully, hops up, looks at the old master. He says, "Okay, you won." The old master said, "Well, do you understand why I won?" And the young master said, "No, not really." The old master said, "Well, the issue is that you're really good with your skill sets. You're an excellent marksman, but the problem is focus. Focus is the point of today's Nandai Dayan lesson." Let's talk a little bit more about focus and martial arts. Really talking about this idea of disciplining your mind, having that true concept of self-victory is one of the hardest things to really do. If you're studying and you're having trouble learning something, making flashcards, take a paragraph and count the words backward and see if you come up with the same number. A lot of times what will happen is you'll end up with a distraction that will kind of creep into your mind, and you have to refocus. And it is within that refocusing that we begin to learn this idea of keeping our focus, keeping our attention, being persistent, and beginning to delve into this entire lifetime journey wherein self-discipline truly becomes a life-altering experience that you learn through classical martial arts training. Years ago, guys, I can remember going on a medevac in Iraq. And when we were flying in, we flew into what would be a hot LZ, meaning there was some active stuff going on the ground where there were some small arms fire. And after we came back, he was amazed at the ability to focus and to concentrate in an environment where bad things were happening all around us. That a lot of the concepts that I learned in martial arts about breath control, about focusing on the task at hand and reviewing those tasks repeatedly in your mind, airway, breathing, circulation, diagnose, exposure, follow up. And that training mindset and that discipline is what's going to help you to overcome some of those emergent settings. It quite literally saved lives.